And you're back with Get Connected. John Beeler in studio. And on the line, we've got our favorite tech reporter, Ted Christonos from Toronto. Hello, Ted. Welcome.
Hello, John.
So today, we're going to talk about the new Samsung S20 line of smartphones. You've had these for a while, Ted.
Yeah.
And we've got them as well. And we wanted to sort of like, what's your, post-launch or post getting them, because they're about to launch when we're recording this, and what your thoughts are on these particular smartphones from a photographer's perspective.
Okay, so the phones are. I already knew the phones would take good photos because Samsung has already been able to do that. So the key thing for me was, okay, what about the new features or the additions that they put in? How would that change or at least enhance the photography experience?
Fully transparently, a lot of the smartphone manufacturers, they pack a lot of new features.
Sure.
Not all of them are worth continuing to use because they're a little gimmicky sometimes.
Oh, well, and Samsung is notoriously guilty for that over the years, to be very honest with you.
Yeah.
But when you're touting a 108 megapixel image sensor, which is only on the S20 Ultra, by the way, that is really okay. It's not. First of all, it's not an image sensor that is 108 megapixels. What they've done is they've done what's called pixel binning. They've basically taken a pixel and they split it into 9. And that the idea there is that if you split the pixel down, you can actually get sharper than you otherwise would. It's true in theory, but in practice, the results aren't always consistent. So in some cases, the sharpening is actually too much. It's more than I wanted in a photo that I'm taking. In other cases, for low light photography, for example, where there is a night mode, which you should use if you're taking a really dark photo. But even in dim settings, the regular camera is great. Like the photo mode, the auto mode is actually really, really good. So it's fine. The issue for me is that I even if you crop an image out of that 108, it's okay, but it's not it's not as amazing as what they showed at the event. It really depends on the lighting and where you are, right. And especially that you're not shooting any kind of movement as well. It's just not great, I find, at capturing movement that way, and then like being able to basically crop it and get a great shot. So it's a shot for shot kind of situation as opposed to a totally consistent one.
Yeah, and that's a key point though, because people see, the flashy advertising and all that type of stuff for these smartphones and think every photo will be perfect. And that's not the case. There's so many variables and just the people taking the photos, as well as the subjects that you're trying to photograph, whether you're chasing your kids on the soccer field or if you're taking pictures of your dog at the dog park. Like there's all kinds of things that could contribute to either a great photo or a really bad photo. And now, it has little to do with the smartphone.
Yeah, for sure. And sorry to interrupt. I mean, one of the caveats that I got to point out here, and this will probably get patched pretty soon, I would think, is that there was a focusing issue on the S20 Ultra. A lot of reviewers have already been pointing that out on social media. It is true. It is a thing. I assume that Samsung will patch that. But I even noticed a couple other things that I couldn't understand. For one, I would focus on something, and then for some reason, the exposure compensation would go too high, to the point it was brightening the photo too much. I constantly had to lower it just to get some decent contrast out of the shot. That's something that Samsung could easily fix with software. So it's not a permanent issue. It doesn't have to be. But it just goes to show that there are nuances to the camera that still need to be tinkered with. In addition, that 100 times zoom that they kept promoting, which I knew right away was not going to be a useful feature, I can confirm without a shadow of a doubt that it's not a useful feature. I mean, maybe if you want to spy on somebody, but in terms of anything usable for photography, no, you're not going to get a usable photo.
Well, when we've seen this with other phones too, where they have this crazy hybrid zoom that you really can't use it for anything unless you're on a tripod or have it mounted. But even then, the picture quality at that far length is just, it's not good. It's great for using it as a telescope or binoculars. trying to find your car in a parking
Sure.
lot, maybe. I don't know.
Sure.
Or I don't know, taking pictures of the moon when you're completely locked down, maybe. But
No, not even then.
no.
No, not even then. It's way too blotchy and blurry. You're not going to get any detail, especially for something like the moon, where you're struggling to get detail out of it anyway.
Right.
So that wouldn't be now. The 10 times hybrid zoom, on the other hand, is impressive. So if you're shooting a 10 times zoom, which is a hybrid zoom because it's a 5 times optical zoom in the lens, if you're shooting at 10 times, the results are actually quite good. Quite better than I expected, and probably I would even say better than Huawei's at 10 times. So there are definitely benefits to using the camera. I like that they have they have a pro video mode now. So if you're shooting video and you want to control, more like the exposure and the shutter and things like that, and you can do all that, which is great.
That is great.
Finally,
because video is always the thing that's sort of like you have no choices.
No, and one thing that Samsung has done that still irks me to this day is they have a pro photo mode. Always been there. It's been there for a long time. But they do not let you use all 3 lenses with it. You are stuck using the main lens with that mode. So if you're a discerning photographer and you want more control, but you want the flexibility of the other lenses, and this matters because if you're using the S20 Plus, which has a 48 megapixel telephoto lens, or even the S20, which has a 64 megapixel telephoto lens, you can't use Pro mode with that kind of a lens. So, or that kind of a sensor, I should say. So it's that kind of handcuffing that I just don't understand. Just look, Samsung, LG made this possible in 2015. I think you guys can do it too.
Yeah, but it's not unique to Samsung, I don't think, as well, though, because you still have similar limitations with the iPhone series as well. You can't use all the modes and all the lenses.
But Apple's also notoriously restricted.
Right.
So that's not surprising.
So they can sell you the...
But Huawei, on the other hand, is not.
Right.
So Huawei is very liberal in the way that you because even their night mode, you can control ISO and shutter on that. Right. So Huawei is always striking that balance of let's give some pro controls, but at the same time, let's make it usable enough for the average layman. Whereas Apple doesn't really trust anybody to do anything more than they think they should. And then Samsung will do these, questionable things of restricting usability in a way that I just don't understand. I mean, if you figure that the user is not going to use Pro mode, then why not just have access to all 3 lenses for the people who want that? I don't know.
Unless there's some kind of software limitation that they have because of the way that they're doing their processing on the images for those various lenses.
I've never gotten a straight answer on that, so I don't know ultimately what they're.
It'd be tough to find the right person to give you that answer, I think.
Well, even if they would, I don't know.
Right.
Because it's probably not a question they're going to get that often. But
Right.
Either way, I mean, the gist, the bottom line is that they take very good photos. There's no question about that. The cameras are good, but Samsung does need to patch a couple things, especially the autofocusing on the Ultra in particular. And for me personally, I don't know. The exposure compensation is actually too overzealous. It needs to dial it back a little bit because I'm constantly lowering the exposure to get a little more contrast in the photo. It's just blowing out the sky completely, for example. So there's some things they need to work out, but there's a lot to work with. I mean, the food mode's kind of interesting. They've added like a sort of a bokeh effect to it that can work for all those Instagrammers that are basically posting every meal they have. So there's a lot there, and I encourage actually for people who have these phones or are getting these phones, play around with the camera and its modes and its features. Don't just stick to auto and go from there. Single take is really good for taking multiple shots with lenses, and it takes video. It takes all kinds of different things at the same time.
Is that the quick shot mode?
It's not quick shot. It's single take.
So
you're basically so imagine now you're kind of panning. So it's really good for movement. So you're kind of panning, and it'll take photos with all the lenses plus video clips as well. So you're capturing the moment entirely as you're shooting.
So it can do it in that mode, but not in the Pro mode.
Yes. Yes.
Come on, Samsung.
Yes, in so many words.
All right, Ted, we got to go. Thanks so much to Ted Chrysonos from Toronto. He's one of our favorite tech journalists, talking about the new Samsung S20 smartphone camera series and their performance after having some time to play with them. Thanks again, Ted.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, John.